Is this it? Is Etsy finally doing something about resellers? If you're like me, you're probably sick of seeing mass-produced crap on Etsy. Items that are clearly made in a factory, sold by sellers who are trying to take advantage of the marketplace. And this oversaturation of dropshipping and resale hurts legitimate sellers who struggle to compete with bottom-of-the-barrel pricing. Not to mention, it makes it hard for buyers to actually shop handmade, and it reduces trust in Etsy as a whole. But as of last quarter, we've got a bit of encouraging news from Etsy CEO, which may mean that a big change is on the horizon. For those who are new here, my name is Starla Moore, founder of the Handmade Alpha Academy for Etsy sellers and manager at erank.com, Etsy's most popular SEO tool. And as someone who works exclusively with Etsy sellers and creative businesses, even I occasionally fall victim to falsely labeled products on Etsy. In fact, our cat tree that you see in all of our videos was listed as a handmade product on Etsy. We wanted to support a handmade seller as a channel that exclusively teaches Etsy sellers. But when it arrived, it was clear that the item was a mass-produced product with a Made in China sticker right on the box. And this is extremely frustrating for both sellers and for buyers who think that they're supporting a small business, especially when shopping for things like jewelry and furniture, where we often see more mass-produced products than genuine handmade items. It destroys buyer trust, and it makes it harder for customers to find us. However, in Etsy's most recent investor report, Etsy CEO Josh Silverman hinted a few big changes coming to Etsy, especially when it comes to products that violate Etsy's handmade policy. And that's all good and well, but I definitely have a few concerns about the overall execution of these updates, which I'll be sharing with you in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at what exactly Josh Silverman said about the frequency of non-handmade products appearing in search.
90% of active buyers believe items on Etsy are unique, high quality, and handmade. That said, mass-produced items, which make up a very small percentage of items on Etsy, do continue to find their way onto the marketplace. We know it weakens trust when a buyer or a seller encounters one of these items.
So I think we can all disagree with the statement that mass-produced items only make up a small percentage of items on Etsy in most industries. These products aren't magically finding their way onto the marketplace. They're being wrongfully placed there by sellers who don't align with the true nature of Etsy. And yes, it definitely weakens the trust for both buyers and sellers, which is why it's important to acknowledge what an absolutely astronomical problem resellers on Etsy truly are, rather than simply stating that they only make up a small percentage of the marketplace. It's akin to me holding out a bowl of 50 M&Ms and saying, don't worry, only a small percentage of them are poisoned. I'm just not a huge fan of how Josh worded this, but maybe that's just me. Let's get on to the big part.
Utilizing state-of-the-art ML and AI technologies, we've been dialing up enforcement of our handmade and other listing policies even more in 2023 to remove items more quickly and accurately.
Basically, what Josh is saying is that they've put AI and machine learning systems in place to help enforce listing policies. And this is both a good thing and a really bad thing. All right, let's start with the obvious benefits. Etsy currently has around 2,790 employees versus over 5.9 million sellers. There's no possible way that they could vet every single listing added to the platform without a little help from the robot overlords. And with the help of AI, it's possible that Etsy could potentially spot and link items that are clearly cross-posted across commonly used dropshipping platforms, like Alibaba. On the flip side, as an Etsy coach that works with thousands of sellers, I see 10 to 20 cases of wrongful item removal on an almost daily basis. In fact, 2 weeks ago, I had a listing for a hoodie removed from our AlphaDAP test shop that we use for the purpose of YouTube recordings. The reason? The shop was run by Amber Marie, and the keyword Amber was flagged under Etsy's Amber Jewelry policy. Upon messaging Etsy to explain this to them, they said that their decision stands because Amber Jewelry can't be sold on Etsy. A clear indication that they didn't actually read my message, and further evidence that human intervention is required in order to accurately enforce policies. So what happened? A day later, the listing was reactivated, which likely means that it passed through the manual review process that takes place after items are flagged. But even with the overall resolution of the issue, the current level of communication provided by Etsy is insulting for those looking for help. And it leaves sellers in a state of panic before Etsy finally pushes these issues to manual review. In Etsy's April transparency policy, they stated that, while the number of flags more than doubled year over year, we reviewed 80% of flagged listings within 2 working days, and all flags within 4 working days on average. which is fantastic news, but Etsy definitely needs to up their game when it comes to better communicating with the sellers who rely on them as a source of income for their families. Especially for a company that so frequently uses words like trust and the human experience.
Our 2022 Transparency Report was published 2 weeks ago. It's a great source of information regarding our efforts to take down listings that violate our policies.
I'm going to go ahead and leave this report in the description below for you guys because I do think that there's a lot of interesting information in it, especially regarding the actions that Etsy is actually taking to remove some of these mass-produced items. And I get it. The overall evolution of an automated system that flags listings is going to take a lot of time to fine-tune. And in most cases, Etsy does reactivate wrongfully disabled listings within a few days tops. But expressing to sellers that sometimes these flags are made in error and giving an option to easily dispute these reports would be an ideal resolution, rather than making sellers feel like they've been abandoned when they've done absolutely nothing wrong. And while we're on the topic of their transparency report, I do want to mention that they highlight an expansion of their 24/7 live chat service for any Etsy seller who has at least one active listing. However, I haven't seen this live chat option since way before the 2022 holiday season, so I'm not exactly sure why they're bragging about this. You technically can reach Etsy by email after a magical menu clicking adventure from your seller dashboard, but this is how I reached out to Etsy about the hoodie that was deactivated under their Amber Jewelry policy, and I most definitely did not get a human response. So I wouldn't exactly consider this helping sellers get the help they need when they need it, as Etsy said it.
We removed 1.9 million listings for violating our policies in 2022, a 16% increase from 2021. This work is never done, but I'm confident that we're taking the right steps to ensure that Etsy remains a safe and trusted place for our communities.
Again, this is all good and well, and their transparency report expands on this even further to say, the vast majority of listings that were removed were identified by our automated systems, which we are continuing to make more precise and reviewed and removed by specialists on our team. So as I speculated in the case of my hoodie, Etsy seems to deactivate first, ask questions later, which fine, okay, but the communication about the time that we can expect for these manual reviews by an actual human would be appreciated. The last thing I want to touch on, and probably the most important thing noted in the transparency report, is the mention of seller verification becoming a possible requirement in the future. They don't really expand much on the idea, stating that they'll be focusing on enhancing and expanding our seller verification process for new and existing sellers, ensuring we know more about who our sellers are, which helps us promote trust across our marketplace. Ideally, this would be in the form of something identifiable, such as uploading a valid ID or a driver's license, which is something already required by most platforms that fight against fraud, such as the new Meta Verified program for Facebook and Instagram. And personally, I think that providing a valid ID is a great and easy barrier to entry that can help eliminate sellers who lie about their country of origin, or who create multiple accounts under different names in order to saturate the marketplace. Again, this is just my speculation based on what other platforms are currently doing in order to enforce their policies on fraud, so only time will tell what processes Etsy will actually put in place this year to help crack down on resellers. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments how you'd feel about stricter barriers to entry for sellers in the future. And if you need a little help selling on Etsy, now is probably as good a time as any to make the announcement that registration for my Etsy coaching program is opening tomorrow, June 14th. The Handmade Alpha Academy is a 9-module self-paced training program that teaches sellers how to build, market, and grow dominant brands on Etsy. Unlike most quick Etsy crash courses, the Handmade Alpha Academy follows a step-by-step curriculum based on consumer psychology, neuromarketing, and real Etsy shopper behavior. No matter how big or small your business is, HAA is designed to help you grow by teaching you how to define your target audience, how to optimize your shop and marketing to attract that ideal customer, and how to build a perpetual traffic funnel that will allow you to drive customers to your shop, even during the slow seasons. And this season, we're offering major incentives to new students, including 1 year of eRank Pro, annual access to our Alpha Holiday Bootcamp, and the Product Photography Essentials Workshop by Coach Christina Nicole. Not to mention, HAA includes a 0 questions asked money-back guarantee. If you get inside and don't absolutely love the program, we'll refund you in full. So if this sounds like something that you may be interested in checking out, be sure to visit the link up here or go to joinhaa.com to check out our success stories and the class curriculum. Overall, success on Etsy sometimes means keeping up with their quarterly reports in order to get a better idea of what changes are on the horizon. And with a little science, a lot of data, and some help from a trusted Etsy expert, you'll be well on your way to Etsy success. Cue the funky lo-fi beat.